back to the Hex Drinkers House of Commons, your one-stop shop for all things competitive and at the common rarity. Today, I'm always joined by Chev, of course. What an unexciting face, but...
True.
But, from the far-off land of the PDH Pod, we're joined by your resident PDH PhD. I think I got the epithet correct. Liam, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm just ecstatic to have you here. We are... the two best PDH-focused pods in the land are collaborating in this week to do a little guest residency, if you will, with this new set that we've got coming out.
And the crazy thing is, Liam only costs $1,000 an episode. So if you want him on yours, that's where all our Patreon money's going.
Oh no, y'all got the discount rate. If anyone else wants me, it costs more for being
family.
for being a non-PDH podcast. It's $2,000.
Ah, yes, of course.
Yeah, I got to pay those school bills somehow, man.
Very true, very true, very true. Are you teaching over at Talaria by any chance?
I am not teaching at Talaria. I am teaching at Lotnom.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm doing my residency program at Lotnom, but hopes to teach at Talaria next semester. Yeah.
We'll keep our fingers crossed for you over here.
Oh, thank you. Maybe one day my spark will ignite and I'll get to visit Strixhaven.
Ooh. Well, you know that I gotta think, like, of all the planes, if I were to step out in one tomorrow, unfortunately it would probably also end in my death. But I'd want to go to Innistrad.
Ooh, yeah. Well,
I like it. I like the zombies.
The good news about Innistrad is life continues after death.
You know, they say that, but I don't think it continues in the same way. Like, if I had to pick which of the undead of Innistrad, Liam, completely off the cuff, which one would you want to come back as?
Ooh. Gosh, put me on the spot. You've got spirits, zombies, vampires count.
Right, yeah, I would say vampires count, undead.
There's some Eldrazi there, too.
I don't think they were ever alive. They're just
just, yeah. I don't know. I think I would probably want to come back as vampires because you're less likely to be on Olivia's crap list. And
yeah, that does seem like a bad list to be on.
Yeah, and werewolves aren't technically undead. Otherwise, I would be a werewolf. But if we're
after my own heart.
If we're undead, probably vampires. Yeah, and because they get to use the blood tokens, and that's just cool. So
bringing it back, that is way better than the rant I was going to go on. Yeah, I'd also pick vampires, mostly because zombies, I don't think they have agency, and if I came back and all I could think about is eating squishy brains, that's no life I want to live, you know? So,
yeah,
vampire for me.
And spirits, is it really living?
I guess you get to possess people Ghostbuster style every once in a while.
No, they're vibing. The spirits are like, I would pick spirits. Spirits are vibing.
Get to hang out with the guys in St. Traft.
Yeah, me and St. Traft.
See,
right,
I would have chosen spirits if we didn't just see Kaya on Innistrad. That scares me a little bit.
The days of spirits are numbered when Kaya shows up. Yeah. We've gone a little far afield. We're here to do. We've got a new set coming out this week, the Brothers War, and we want to talk about it, especially how it relates to the competitive format. But first, it's time for our ongoing segment. Julian, you had a PDC game this week.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about this one this time.
All right, moving on.
Yeah, I'm gonna make this quick. I lost again, so we're riding the struggle bus. But I do think there are a few good things to take away. I played against Naptown Hustle. Shout out to Naptown Hustle. Big fan of Annapolis when I went to school down in Maryland. I'm assuming that's what the Naptown is. If it's a different Naptown, I'm very confused. But they were playing a Disciple of Deceit deck. So we've come full circle. The biggest thing for me is I need to find where did I put the thing? Here we go.
Pause for finding notes.
Gotcha. So we've come full circle. We are just playing a blue-black deck, and this might as well be a cPDH deck. Disciple of Deceit, for those who do not know,
I think it is
blue and a black for a 1/3 human rogue. It's got inspired, which means whenever it becomes untapped, we're going to trigger some ability. In this case, we may discard a non-land card, and if we do, we're going to search our library for a card with the same converted mana cost as that card, reveal it, put it into our hand, shuffle our library. So this allows us to tutor.
I'm smelling combos, Julian.
You're giving away. You're giving it away. So this is a Dimir deck. This is very much a best of PDH sort of staple sort of thing. Like I said, this very much smelled to me like a cPDH deck. And spoiler alert, I did get comboed on the infamous Ghostly Flicker, Archaeomancer, Peregrine Drake combo. We went for
It's an oldie but a goodie.
It is an
oldie but a goodie.
I did manage to take a game, so I went 1-2 against this list. The game that I won, game 2, I was firmly in control. Got to get out a few of my pingers as well as Gelectrode, and pretty much did the standard thing. The audience has heard enough by now about how my deck functions.
Quick reminder, hypothetically, if I was a guest on this podcast and was unaware what your deck might be.
Oh yes, so my deck is all about slinging spells and pinging the opponent. So Gelectrode untaps whenever we cast an instant sorcery.
Gelectrode. Okay, I was waiting for the commando.
Yes,
Gelectrode.
That should tell you all you need to know.
It's joined
Gelectrode, 100% there.
Yeah, Gelectrode's joined, of course, by the Avengers level threat of Thermo Alchemist and Basic Flame Breather, Firebrand Archer, all the great stuff, and then just as many burn spells and cantrips as possible. So really trying to go fast. It's had mixed results so far, but when I do get to kind of lock the board down, we can take a game. So we got that. But the other two games were super grind fest. This was literally like a 2.5 hour set of games. It was a grind fest for real. But yeah, Naptown Hustle with Disciple of Deceit. For me, my biggest thought going into it was I was like, I cannot let Disciple of Deceit ever trigger. No. So it was one of those things where I was killing it every chance I got, which I almost think was a bit of a mistake because just them being able to continuously cast Disciple of Deceit, they're playing a good amount of lands in here, was taking away resources from my hand, which I'm already a deck that uses resources very liberally. Mm-hmm. And then them just having all these other super powerhouses of cards in the PDH format just to play and continue to accrue value was ridiculous. We've got things like Crypt Rats, we've got Fleshbag Marauder.
I mean, you're in blue-black. You've got everything you could possibly want. You can get back all your instants and sorceries. You can murder anything that hits the board and bring it back. With a value engine like that, it's really hard to kind of take it offline when the rest of the deck can be so grindy that really the commander is redundancy. You're trying to get that combo finish. The commander just helps you get there. So if you can stall the game out long enough to just get the pieces yourself, the commander's unnecessary and is just a target for removal, so you can kind of work in the shadows.
Yeah, we're doing all the normal stuff. I mean, we've got a few transmute cards in here. We've got things like Trinket Mage, which can get us something like a Viridian Longbow. And the few times that they did get to resolve the Disciple of Deceit trigger, it's really just like, what do I need in the moment? Do I need a removal spell? Do I need a combo piece? Can I start building towards a larger board? So it was just always crippling. And like you said, Chev, I did end up actually getting comboed out for the win with the killing blow being Vampire Spawn, a 2 and a black from, I believe that's the AFR set symbol. Yep. When it enters, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. And I thought I was cute because I was able to. They generated infinite mana, as you do, and then they played Vampire Spawn, and they were like, okay, now I'm going to Ghostly Flicker and attempt to flicker this infinitely right. With this in the Archaeomancer, and I was like, well, I've got Lightning Bolt, so with that on the stack, I'm going to remove your target, no Vampire Spawn, and they were like, okay, well, I'm just going to get back, I'm just going to get back Unearth with my Archaeomancer and reanimate a Vampire Spawn, and then just proceed as usual.
Yeah.
So we're chilling, but I had the moment.
They gave you the thumbs up and just did it anyway.
Yes, precisely. Yeah.
You've got it, buddy. Anyways.
Yeah. I hope you're happy.
I was happy for a split second. Good little Monarch / Initiative package in here. We've been seeing that. That always is providing a ton of value.
That is brutal in PDC.
And of course, things like Moonstar prototype, which we discussed recently as well, which is a huge pickup. But yeah, the biggest thing for me was this is, like I said, this is basically just a cPDH deck. Like, I'm really wondering if I should abandon all conceptions of this being, since it's a one-on-one format and we have less life and it's theoretically more aggro faster. Maybe I should just be taking essentially what are cPDH decks and slightly tuning them for my PDC matchups. So, I mean, that's less work for me, frankly.
it does stand to reason that the best commons would be the best commons across the board. But I definitely like how, at least for this first league, you made a deck completely from scratch and were able to try it out and see, can we capitalize on the fact it's 1v1 at a base level, as opposed to taking a deck that works in a multiplayer format and just fine-tuning it a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely enjoyed making the list, and I have a ton of good data to tweak it and hopefully make it a bit more potent. I believe I only have 1 or 2 more matches left, so the league will be over soon, and after that, I definitely want to bring a bit more of brewing and theory crafting from PDC onto the pod. So stay tuned for that, and let us know what sort of things you might want to hear about.
Liam, do you have any experience with 1v1 Pauper Commander?
I do not have any experience with explicitly 1v1 PDC. I have played a couple of 1v1 PDH games where like friends and I we're the only ones out of a pod right now, and we do a 1v1 with our regular PDH decks. Right. But I've not played any PDC games specifically. I'm just trying to grow the PDH community in my area right now.
One step at a time.
But for sure. But no, I definitely like the approach of just starting from scratch, getting a commander, building it from the ground up. I definitely think everyone who likes the data and the grind almost should have a pet deck like that in a format they enjoy, where they took it from square one and just they've gathered all the materials and data along the way themselves, and just they become known for that deck specifically. And it sounds like you've got that with Electrode.
I'm hoping so. Hopefully I can bring him to new heights. Do you have a deck like that's really your baby that you've been through thick and thin with?
In EDH, I have had a couple of decks that were like that. It was originally Rayhan Ishai, and then that became too popular, so it was Yuriko for a while. And then Yuriko became too popular, so I dropped that one for Ruxa, Patient Professor.
Okay, so you're going vanilla.
That archetype has started to become more fleshed out with more commanders like Jasmine Boreal, and there was a green-white one in a recent set. I couldn't tell you what set. I think it was in the I think it was the Dominator United box toppers. There was another green-white one alongside Jasmine, where they cared about vanilla tokens. And the thing is, that's still green-white. It's not back to mono green yet. So I think I'm safe with Ruxa for a little bit longer. But yeah, so that's me in the EDH realm. In PDH, I actually have an Ether Swan Sphinx deck that I've been working on diligently. I've not put together an online list for it yet. It's still in my paper realm. For those who know how I brew, I brew on paper first. So, but I'm hoping to make a digital list here soon. It looks like it's coming together, and that may end up being my PDC list. Maybe we'll see.
Dibs on the exclusive distribution rights on Ether Sworn Sphinx from Liam here on the Hextriggers podcast.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. Exclusive break.
But yeah, that's kind of me in the PDH realm right now. I'm just kind of working on that deck when I can. Honestly, it's my life is a bit chaotic for those who follow me on PDH Pod. So when I get the chance, I work on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to have something, right? Like, I see it kind of with pet decks specifically, when I'm not, pulling decks from a database or something like that. It's kind of like tending to the garden.
Exactly.
And you do it when you have a little bit and you just want to spend some time messing around.
It's like people who, do woodworking as a hobby, or, model trains, and like they have, the village that they're creating for model trains, or they have like the table they're creating. Yeah, it's a little less useful in real life. But it's still, I find it nurtures that same spot of the soul of just something to just come back to and just work on and tinkle with.
Mm-hmm. And that is, I before we move on to the actual content of this episode, I do want to make one more point here. That is what I really like about brewing in paper. I recently, again, we promise we'll come back to PDH, but
we'll come back.
It's hard to neglect the EDH for a minute, but I just did that with a Blanca Ferocious Friend deck where I had an idea for it and I didn't have all the cards, so I was just looking through bulk, looking through whatever, finding just whatever works that targets, and I have so many bad cards in there, but it was so fun to just put it together organically as opposed to, look on EDH Rec, or even Scryfall is an amazing tool, but it also, you get a little lazy when you can go target creature and then find all the cards and sort by EDH rank. Like it's not exactly deck building the way it used to be.
Yeah. I appreciate those tools, but my problem with EDH Rec, my only problem with EDH
Let's
Rec.
start some beef. Let's start some beef.
No. I don't get me wrong.
Julian,
I love EDH Rec. I love EDH Rec. I love all the articles. I love the site. I love the podcast. My only problem with EDH Rec as a site and concept is the fact that they can create the segment, challenge the stats in their podcast, and make it successful. Because Magic is a very complicated game with so many variables. No database ever could realistically capture that. And because it is entirely crowdsourced data on EDH Rec, people mess up rules all the time.
Ooh.
And my only problem with EDH Rec is that stuff gets through the cracks on almost every page. And, I can see it because I'm a judge. And I see a card, I'm like, that doesn't fit. It's got a 72% rating, and it shouldn't be on this page at all. And it's infuriating to look at.
That's got to be so rough.
I have to use the advanced features and be like, I want recommendations that don't include this card.
Oh, wow.
So, the advanced features are amazing. I love them because of that. I can exclude cards specifically, be like, I don't want to see a deck list that has this card in it because this person doesn't know what they're doing.
Yes.
No offense to all the crowdsourced players out there. I am one of you. But yeah, no.
It's kind of like being a judge has to be kind of seeing behind the curtain a little bit, where not saying that the magic is taken away, but you do get those moments where you see the I'm thinking of a word, starts with an F, the man being not perfect. What's the folly of man. That sounds intense for this podcast.
I'm taking applications for a new co-host.
We're getting philosophical here, so we should probably wrap this up and get to the
anyway. Did you guys know?
What was that, Liam?
You're not wrong, but part of the perks is you're at events and you get to see stuff unfold in real time. You get to explain things that players are like, oh, cool, I never realized it would work that way. And then you get to see other things where, Judge, my opponent pointed a counter spell at my Omnath that I used Cavern of Souls to cast that's naming elementals. Yeah, they're legally allowed to do that, but do we do any backups? No, Omnath is a legal target for that counter spell. So what happens? The counter spell does nothing. Omnath can't be countered, but he's a legal target.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Welcome to modern, folks.
We try and stay far away.
We're
from
at the
those
common rarity here, Liam. Come on.
I'm sorry.
Neither
of
us.
I'm sorry. I can talk about too many formats. Yeah. Okay. Back to PDC. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Speaking of commons, did you guys know that we have a whole batch of new commons? It would turn out that periodically Wizards of the Coast, the company that publishes the
periodically is a strong word here.
The trading card game Magic the Gathering.
They periodically
come out with new expansion sets that have new cards, which happen to be at the common rarity.
This is true.
In this case, they have one of the best set codes of all time, Bro.
Bro.
I wish it was Bruh, but
did you see the next set code? It's 1.
What? Oh, that's amazing.
And
have
the retro.
You seen
the retro.
Yes, the retro. Oh. Incredible. Sorry, Julian, you're trying to keep us on track here.
I'm really doing my best. Let's be real. This is mostly Wizards' fault. It's not our fault. Anyway,
yeah, it is.
We do have the new set Brothers War, which is releasing when this comes
November
out.
November 18th,
which will be in a few days from when this comes out. So we are going to take a look here on the House of Commons. We're going to look at the competitive side, and if you tune into the PDH pod, you'll hear about the wider PDH realm as a whole. But we're going to talk about some cards that we think are going to see play in cPDH. Liam, you're our esteemed guest. Why don't you start us off with a few of the cards that you're a little intrigued by?
Yeah, sure. So the first one that I want to talk about today is actually not a new card. It is a reprint in this set.
We love reprints.
I had to explain to my lovely co-hosts here.
We did not know it was a reprint. It was
we'll cut this
fun
part
surprise.
We'll cut this part out. Okay.
They can never know.
the card, the new card is Curate. Curate is a fairly simple card. It is 1 in the blue for an instant. It reads Surveil 2, draw a card. This card was actually first originally in Strixhaven at common, and it read, look at the top 2 cards of your library, draw a card. So I don't know how in tune the PTC community might be in with all the Oracle updates that happen, but it was about 2-3 weeks ago, a bunch of random cards got updated to actually say Surveil. When it came out in 2018 and Wizards of the Coast was like, oh, this isn't going to be evergreen and it's probably not going to be deciduous, and we're just going to print the Surveil effect but not print Surveil. And then they printed Consider and Midnight Hunt and everyone got upset. Everything says Surveil now. It's great. So while Curate is not a new card, it does have new functionality by reading Surveil. And I did want to point it out specifically because it is new Oracle text printed in this version.
Yeah, I don't think Dimir Spybug is making it onto the database anytime soon. But it is important to know, and it's a good cantrip, right? Curate is probably in some lists for Crackling Drake. It's probably in some lists for Murmuring Mystic.
Yeah,
probably.
I mean, I'm sure a ton of lists can make use of, like you said, we're playing a ton of cards that just cantrip. There's a ton of things that trigger off casting, instants, and sorceries. We might even be talking about one of those pretty soon. And also, of course, obviously the graveyard synergies can never be overlooked. So yeah, Curate is definitely a card that we love to see reprinted. Not that it was breaking any banks, but people might have forgotten about it. And now that it does have the updated Surveil 2, it just looks a lot cleaner as well.
And
an incredible flavor text too.
I'll go ahead and agree with the show notes and that it is a strict Deliberate upgrade, which is 1 in the blue for Scry 2 draw card.
I just dropped Deliberate into a Talrand EDH deck, so
yeah,
I will be making the swap, hopefully with a pre-release common.
But yeah, no, I definitely think Surveil is stronger than Scry. I have plenty of people that will argue with me on that, but they've clearly never played a graveyard deck. Or played with their graveyard. Yeah, no, I definitely think this reprint is nice. It's got some new art. It's got new Oracle text. I will be sure to swap out all of my versions because of the Oracle text, because I will absolutely forget it says Surveil. And yeah, so I'm excited about that. You ready to move on?
Card good. Yeah.
I'm excited about a new... So let me preface this by saying a majority of the cards that we've decided to discuss today are not things that are going to completely turn the format on its head.
No.
There's anything crazy that's providing new effects. A lot of these are just excellent redundancy and efficiency upgrades, which is great to see. That's what we're all about here. We just want to be playing simply the best cards, and if we can have more of those cards on average, we'd love to see it. One of these is Overwhelming Remorse. This is going to be 4 and a black for an instant that exiles a target creature or planeswalker. We're not going to be seeing any planeswalkers in our format, but this spell costs 1 less for each creature card in your graveyard. So this is essentially something that I would say is debatably a strict upgrade over something like a Murderous Cut, which we don't actually even have in the format. So this is very nice, but we're exiling, and this can easily be 1 and a black or just a single black.
Yes. Yeah, I something like this I think is going to be a shoe-in for at least all the Rats decks we have. Conrad specifically. And Grey Merchant are probably just instantly going to include this. And most black decks, particularly in cPDH, care a lot about aristocrat themes. I'm thinking even Tormod builds and things like that. They are all about filling the graveyard. You're going to get 4 creatures in there. And even if you don't, if you're casting this for 3 mana, exile effects are not that common.
Yeah.
Haha. That's the second one today. I'm on a roll. Please replace me.
I might trade you out for Liam.
Oh dang.
But no, yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah, even if you sometimes people just hard cast stuff out.
Yeah.
If I have to cast this for 4 mana but it exiles, I'm not gonna complain. Sorry, Liam, were you gonna jump in there?
No, I'm just agreeing.
Card good.
Classic card good.
It's also great to get
really
replacements for all of the older spells. I mean, even Snuff Out is amazing, but that non-black trips me up so frequently. So if we could just get these new versions where in the modern day the color black can murder anything, and anytime we get an upgraded form of that is incredible. Or if you're playing, I know there's been some pushes to play planeswalkers, which of course we're not dealing with them at common, exile target creature or planeswalker, but there are some cPDH, rule 0 decks that put the War of the Sparkwalkers at the front, and having a way to deal with that at common is really, really strong.
Yeah, I've since I've been growing my local group a little bit, they've shown some interest in some of the walkers, and I'm not against it personally. So I've definitely been slotting some more Eaten Alives and Feed the Serpents into my deck. And while I don't mind the Eaten Alives because sacrificing a creature isn't that big of a cost in most of my decks, Feed the Serpent being 4 mana hurts a little bit. So I definitely like the opportunity to make it cheaper, even if it's at 2 or 3 mana. Just the opportunity to make it not cost 4, and especially double black is nice.
It's pretty great.
I mean, we all know it's only a matter of time until Wizards prints a Planeswalker at the common rarity. So let's all get on the ground floor, and adopt overwhelming remorse.
I would say let's wait for common legends first, but that happened all the way back in Homelands. So let's wait for common legends to occur more frequently, I guess.
It's only a matter of time. But before we go too deep down that rabbit hole, we should jump into the next card, and probably the one I'm most excited about. Bitter Reunion. It's 1 in a red for an enchantment. ETBs, you may discard a card if you do draw 2 cards, and then tap 1, sacrifice it. Creatures you control gain haste until end of turn. This is amazing because this is a haste enabler the turn it comes down for all creatures. So this is instantly making me think of the Rocco Cabaretti Caterer deck that already saw a great new card with the Keldon Strike team and Dominaria United. Granted, this is an enchantment, so you can't tutor it with Rocco, but having that redundancy, I think, is worth it, especially because that a green combo deck needs all the help it can get. So having redundancy on the haste effect is great, and hopefully this replaces, I think it's Torch Bearer or Torch Carrier, the little Gabo that gives 1 creature haste, and so you can hopefully
make Courier.
Torch Courier, yes, thank you. That can give your elf generation, but you can't swing at them that turn. Whereas something like this is going to be incredible for that. So, Bitter Reunion, amazing, and I'm sure plenty of other decks will want to be able to sneak in a hasty attack. Dargo is probably not going to find room for this in competitive, but at casual tables, this is going to be great to be swinging for 7. And any other red commander that really cares about attacks, this is great. We love redundancy.
1,000,000%. I mean, it's an enchantment, but this is a Tormenting Voice, right? Discard a card, draw 2 cards, which is a card that I, could already see seeing play. And like you said, whenever you need to, now we're giving haste. And
it can sit on the battlefield for a little while.
It can sit on the battlefield. And this doesn't necessarily need to give all of our creatures haste if we're generating infinite creatures. This is just give our Malcolm haste so that it can tap with a Viridian Longbow on it or something like that to enable a combo. So definitely a versatile tool, and I think something that a lot of people might overlook but should try to include in their deck. I definitely think it's going to pay dividends when you actually draw it and are able to cast it, for sure. Next up is a card that I want to talk about briefly. It's Clay Revenant. It's a singular generic mana for an artifact creature golem, a 1/2. It enters tapped, but I don't really care about those things. Mostly I just care about the fact that you can pay 2 and a black to return this from your graveyard to your hand. We have a bunch of decks that like to utilize sort of like an aristocrat strategy, sacrificing things, whether that's just playing things like Reckoner's Bargain and Deadly Dispute, or if we're actually going infinite and getting the infinite ETBs, LTBs. And this is just another sort of reassembling skeleton type thing that we can play on the cheap and return to our hand and have kind of an infinite recursion style engine. And I definitely think it just, once again, we're padding out these levels of redundancy within the format, and eventually we are going to hit critical mass, or in some cases have hit critical mass, where these things are just you will see one or multiple of these effects every game.
So what deck does Clay Revenant go in?
Tormod.
Tormod. Okay. Yep.
Tormod. We probably got also
Sir Conrad as well.
Sir Conrad. Yeah. Those are the two big ones that this is going to find a home for, particularly because you return it at instant speed, so you can throw up a blocker for Tormod, or you can make a 2/2 zombie in an opponent's end step. Those are the two decks that this is going to see, because they're the two we have that really care about the graveyard more than anything else.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Liam, would you let us know about our next card?
Yeah, sure. So the next one is Prison Sentence. This is the 3-mana pacifism of the set. So it is a 2 and a white enchantment. The enchanted creature can't attack or block, and also its activated abilities cannot be activated. However, the reason we want to talk about this specifically is it's got some pretty good upside to it. When it enters, you scry 2. It's not Surveil 2, it is Scry 2. But scrying 2 is always pretty good. And if I'm trying to remember correctly, can't attack, block, or activate abilities is Caught in the Brights, which is also 3 mana, I think. It's the right card.
Yes.
I know Caught in the Brights stops vehicles. So, yeah, I definitely like this card a lot. It's some pretty good white removal. Removal in quotes because it's white. But the scry advantage is good, and definitely also in mono white, any card advantage they can get, which scry is sort of kind of that card selection. I definitely like it as an option to be a little more aggressive with the card selection in the deck.
Yeah, white has been putting up numbers with card advantage recently. So Scry 2 is amazing. I'm seeing this in Satyr Enchanter, obviously, for the enchantment type. But, I mean, it's no Oubliette, but it's pretty freaking close with can't attack, can't block, and its activate abilities. That's key, because a lot of these pacifism effects we see are just attack and block because they're from before the time when creatures had whole spells to activate on them. And there are so many commanders that really care about, doing something that isn't just attacking. So being able to stop that as well is excellent.
The card I was thinking of is Arrest, not Caught in the Brights.
Oh, Caught in the Brights is the fun one where I think if you would...
It exiles a vehicle or something.
Yes, yeah. If a vehicle swings, you exile it or something like that. It's essentially getting hit by a car, which is actually not that funny now that I say it out loud.
You're disgusting. I put this on the list. I mostly am just trying to continue to push my agenda because like I said, we have about 4 or 5 of these now that are auras that are not only a pacifism but also prevent any sort of activated abilities, things like Bounding Gold as well. And I'm slowly pushing the agenda that eventually we will get a mono-white cPDH list, and I think this is going to help us get there.
Yes.
Once again, that redundancy. If we see these super powerful things that can completely shut down a board, and I would say something similar to something like an Oubliette, being able to just lock something down on the board, it can't do anything, but once again, we're not removing it with something like a red or a black removal spell, so that our opponents can't just recast it and continue. Yeah. Kind of putting it in jail, if you will, prison sentence. I can make puns too. Sometimes can even be more effective than just say casting something like an overwhelming response or overwhelming remorse. Sorry, I can't even read. Jeez. So anyway, that's my take on this one. Another one that I'm super huge on is the Scrapwork Ravager, which Chev did not add to our list of cards. Anyway, it is I believe it's 4 mana. It's 4 mana for an artifact creature, Phyrexian Horror. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. People who have been playing DMU Limited probably very familiar with this because this is essentially just a additional mana for a Phyrexian Rager. But in this case, we have the Unearth keyword, which has come back in full force in this set.
Unearth is so good.
It's just pure value. This chump blocks for days. It is great edict fodder. It's drawing us a card. We can bring it back when we want. And God forbid we're doing any sort of recursion shenanigans. Don't tell Brad that we're doing aristocrats and Orzhov things without him. But God forbid we're doing anything like that. This is just going to generate a ton of value. This is going to be a great pickup. And Unfortunately, the Unearth does have the black mana symbol in it, so this is restricted to black decks, but black being the tied for first or a close second best color, this is definitely something that's going to find its home into a lot of not only black aristocrat style decks, but also just those best of sort of decks. I could definitely see this being played in something like a Disciple of Deceit, which we discussed earlier.
Yep.
For sure.
Jumping on to, if this wasn't enough redundancy, we have a couple more picks that are really very clearly, you're adding this to your selection of effects in decks that already run very similar cards. This set's version of don't kill my creature in black and let it flicker instead is Ashnod's Intervention, a 1-mana black instant where until end of turn, target creature gets +2/+0 and gains when it dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, return it to its owner's hand. So that exile rider is not one we've seen too frequently in common, and this doesn't bring it back to the battlefield. But notably, if it goes back to your hand, you can play it untapped, which gets into a few combo lines that we've seen once you generate enough mana in things like Cormella or other ones like that. Just being able to play your commander again or any creature again and have it swing, etc. Super good. I don't know what else needs to be said about this card, but if you're playing black and you care about your creatures or anything like that, this is probably a card you want to consider.
In addition, more just please don't kill my creature things. Lorian's Escape / also Gaia's Gift. Lorian's Escape, singular white. Target artifact or creature gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Also scry 1. Once again, white getting that not pure card advantage, right? I don't think they're ever going to allow white to just straight up draw cards like they do for black or blue.
Right,
but,
besides the spell in this set, that's 3 mana, instant white, draw a card, gain some life.
Yeah, only 1 card though, because and also 3 mana because it is
they
what it is.
they won't ever allow white to just straight up draw a card as an additional staple artifact.
Fair.
Yes, correct. Thank you. Once again,
the Peacemaker.
the PhD showing his knowledge here. Yeah. So Lawrence Escape, once again, we're protecting. We already have things like Stave Off and Apostle's Blessing in the format, but Lawrence Escape is nice. Also gives Indestructible as well, in case there's something like a Pestilence that's going off or an Evikar's Justice. Guy's Gift, 1 and a green instant. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. It gains. Count them off. Reach. Trample, hexproof, and indestructible until end of turn. Do you like keywords? Because, oh boy, we've got
Green.
all of them.
This just gives you all of the protection keywords.
Yeah, it's like just in case we're trying to cover all the bases with this card. You can't target it, it can't die.
Can block
the next
flyers.
version will have, if it would be exiled, return it to the battlefield.
Yeah.
I think the most, and obviously this saves a creature. We have things like Tamiyo's Safekeeping in the format already. But I think the most underrated thing is this buffs your creature permanently 1 and also gives trample. So this can be used as a combat trick.
Yeah.
If you need to, or if you just want to get in for damage or whatever. And it gives indestructible, so you can attack with impunity as well. Allow me, if you would, gentlemen, to go on a mild sort of discussion. And Liam, I especially want to hear your thoughts on this. We discussed a lot of these picks are just redundancy, and some of these things like Lauren's Escape, things like Gaia's Gift, even Ashnod's Intervention. Wizards is continually, quote unquote, reinventing these things with mildly different riders depending on what sort of thing you're trying to do. But at what point have we reached critical mass, and should we just not care about these things? Because when Chev initially showed me some of these cards coming through. Ashnod's Intervention, we already have things like Malakir Rebirth. Well, that's an uncommon, but we have, Armor of Shadows, Battle Rage Blessing, all sorts
Feign
of
Death.
Feign Death, Undying Malice, Undying Evil. At what point do we not need the 7th edition of, this dies and it comes back, or the 5th edition of I just want to make sure that my creature doesn't die in white. We have things like I said, Apostle's Blessing,
Blacksmith's
Stave Off, Blacksmith's Skill, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I can go ahead and give you my opinion.
Please.
I think that when it comes to the black versions of these cards, the Ashnod's Interventions, we have like 8 of these. We already have enough wizards. You don't need to take the 3 or 4 different effects, because it's always, is there a buff or not? If there is a buff, is it a counter or is it temporary? Then there's does it go back to hand? Does it go to the field? Does it come back tapped or untapped? Does it come back with a counter or does it not come back with a counter? It gets the counter when you cast a spell. There are so many variations of this effect. You could probably create 50 unique versions of this effect.
Right.
We don't need 50 unique versions. 8 is more than enough. The problem with Ashnod's Intervention specifically, out of all 8 of these, is that Ashnod's Intervention is named. It can only appear really in Brothers' War because Ashnod is dead. Same problem kind of exists for Lauren's Escape and Gaia's Gift. I think these ones have a little more breathing room because there aren't as many of these effects. In particular, Lauren's Escape, they can always make white better, so I feel like there's a lot more breathing room in that effect. But the problem with these two is, again, they are Dominaria named characters. One of them is dead. One of them is the world soul of Dominaria. So it's really difficult.
Might be hard to see that on Zendikar.
Yeah, it'd be really hard to reprint these in a standard set. That being said, a lot of these effects that exist could be reprinted in standard sets. And for some reason, since Fire Design started, Wizards has been allergic to reprinting things. Standard sets of old, you could probably find half a dozen to a dozen cards that were reprints, with new art or not. They were, across all the rarities, they were reprints. Maybe not at Mythic, but we don't care about that. Since Fire Design, there's been like 2-3 cards a set that are reprints. And don't get me wrong, I love that there are still reprints, but like, can we get more? Because like, did we need Ashnod's Intervention, or could we have used one of the other 7 that exist? Could we, I get the people, a couple years ago, I think it was Throne of Eldraine followed by Theros, both reprinted Thrill of Possibility, right?
Yes.
It came out in Throne, it got reprinted in Theros, and then it got reprinted again later in another set, I think. And like, people were upset that the same card was showing up in Standard. But here's the thing, it's a common, so it's there for draft support. And they gave it new art. They didn't like reuse the same art. They gave it new art. I'm completely okay with that. I'm completely okay if they, reprint the same couple of commons every couple sets, giving us new art, new flavor, right? Making it fit the world better. But it's the same card. I'm okay with that. That's okay. If we're doing that with the mythic planeswalkers, the legendary rares, let's not, right?
Right. But, yeah, the ones that are specific, whereas with draft, there's only so many knobs to pull for the cards that you're adding to make your deck function as opposed to the haymakers.
Exactly.
I agree. I think we should have Lightning Bolt and Ponder in every set.
I'm in support of that as long as it looks like Shock and Divination.
Yeah.
I'll settle. We can meet in the middle. I'll take those.
I think too, it's bringing up something that EDH deck builders have dealt with for a while, and PDH and cPDH have not had the opportunity to, and that is decision paralysis. Paralysis? Where you have multiple versions.
Heck, did you just pronounce that word?
The fact you have multiple versions and you actually have to think, which one is going to be more beneficial to your commander. I remember when we first talked about the Cormella list, we were wondering why more of these Ashnod's Intervention-esque effects weren't being run, and I believe it might have been Alcadron that pointed out to us that it's because of the Untap Rider. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And so there's just so many at this point where you do have to put a little thought into it, as opposed to just being like, I need the 3 best removal spells at common, the 3 best protection spells at common, and then we can move on. There's consideration now. I don't mind there having to be some thought to the deck building. Like, I don't mind that, 3 of this effect exists, I'm just going to throw them all in. Like, you can't do that anymore. There's 8 or 9. You have to put some thought. Right. But the thing with that is, though all the differences between them is so minuscule. Yes. That it gives you a headache. Can it actually matter? Yeah. Like you'd rather have decision paralysis about like sets of cards or groups. It's gotten to the point that I look at cards like Ashnod's Intervention and I'm like, okay, my deck needs 4 of these. There are 9. I go to my collection. Which 4 do I have? Those are the 4 I'm running. Like, and you know what? That's not a bad thing. It's preventing me from buying more cards that I don't need. But it's also like when it gets to the point where the decision just becomes, what do I have? Because they're also similar. It doesn't matter. It's just like, do we really need the number 9, or could we just reprint one and give it new art? Mm-hmm. Like, I'd be okay with that. I honestly would be okay. With we don't need core sets. I love core sets, but we don't need them.
if they just took the concept of a core set and split it across the 4 other standard sets, right? The core sets is entirely reprints all the way up to Mythic. We don't need core sets. The idea behind them is to provide a grounded starting point. That's why like 2012 to 2015 were almost so similar at the common rarity. The only real difference is really hitting once you hit rare Mythic. Some differences in uncommons, but the concept behind that is, you take the 100 commons you want to reprint that year, put 25 in each standard set, and you're good to go. Right? And commons don't often need reprinted. I mean, there's certain ones like Lotus Petal that'd be nice if it did, but commons, aren't price prohibitive. It's just, pick the ones that you want to be in standard, Wizards, and put them in standard. Like, we don't need new versions of every single effect. Right? We don't need Lightning Bolt that is a single red and deals 4 damage. We don't need that. Okay.
I mean,
we don't. Nice. We don't need Lightning Bolt, honestly. Lightning Strike and Shock are perfectly balanced.
Right.
Let's put those back in.
Hold on now. I'm gonna need you to take that one back real quick.
Okay, look, I play Burn in Modern. Okay, so I feel you, but we don't need Lightning Bolt in Standard. Okay.
Fair enough.
Shock and Lightning Strike are fine in Standard. They're not great.
Correct.
Lightning Bolt would be great, but we don't need it.
Yes, you're correct. I agree. Oh, you know who does need Shock and Lightning Bolt and Lightning Strike though?
Ooh,
is
a segue.
Liam's favorite uncommon. Liam, are you finally going to break into cPDH with the Third Path Iconoclast?
I didn't realize that I actually got to pick. I just thought I had to pick off the options you guys gave me.
Oh no! Do you have a different one that you'd rather do?
I don't know. I can look real quick.
Yeah, sorry. I when I threw them up there, I was just like, these are the ones I think are competitive, but please replace them if there was one that you wanted more.
Third Path Iconoclast is cool because it is dope. If I was going to talk about one off the cuff, I am going to just go ahead and casually mention that I am personally crafting a Mishra v Urza PDH dual deck. Lists to come, but that's not competitive. I did not realize there was an uncommon Lorraine. I thought she was rare. That's interesting.
Yeah, there's 2 in this set. It's very odd.
Yeah. But the one that I will mention is Battery Bearer. So this one's actually caught my eye, and I don't know why, because Simic is really not my jam. But it's 2 green and a blue for a 3/4 Artificer. Creatures you control have tap, add colorless. This mana can't be cast a non-artifact spell, so Power Stone text. And whenever you cast an artifact spell with mana value 6 or greater, draw a card. I'm not sure where this exists in the competitive realm, but I'm imagining kind of Aethersworn Sphinxy, but in Simic, where you have a bunch of big artifact beaters that just kind of keep ramping into each other, and with green providing early ramp and blue providing card advantage, I don't really see that being too much of a problem, especially considering your commander turns all of your big beaters into cantrips.
Right.
It's not literal cascade like Aethersworn Sphinx is, but I think it definitely has the power to get out of hand quickly. Definitely at a casual table, it can get out of hand quickly. I'm not sure where this could exist in a competitive realm, if it even does. Y'all tend to be more tuned into that. What do you think?
So, a few thoughts on this. One, I definitely think that the cPDH collective metaverse, however you want to describe it, is slowly but surely opening up to expand and include a lot more different strategies. Yeah. Obviously, this is large artifact punchy. One thing about Simic is that similar to EDH, it is just always going to be good. You can kind of put whatever you really need to together and make this happen. There's a ton of just good ETB triggers that now all of a sudden become mana dorks for you. There are a significant amount of just large artifact creatures that you can put mana into like this. I'm thinking things like Maelstrom Colossus, because Cascade is a fair and balanced mechanic, surely, right?
Yeah.
And in something like this where we're ramping plenty and we have something like blue, we can always just throw in a few tutors and a combo that if we happen to get them together, we can just win the game on the spot. But I definitely think that as the meta shifts towards being a lot more aggro, we're seeing a lot more base red decks coming in that are really trying to just deal damage quickly, and something like this that could potentially stabilize the board state, and now all of a sudden, instead of attacking with 3/3/3s, we're attacking with 3/6/6s or 7/7s that maybe even have trample or something. Assuming you can stabilize real quick, now all of a sudden you are completely controlling the board state and are able to quickly dominate.
Yeah. Okay. And something else to note too is the creatures can be creature tokens. So if you can make some sapperlings or maybe some birds or something like that, you can turn them all into sweet little Llanowar elves.
Yep. So that's the battery bearer. I can talk about the third path Iconoclast real quick. So this is got the cast a non-creature spell text, create a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature token. Definitely feeling the young PZ vibes here, definitely feeling the Talrand vibes here, although they don't fly. The artifact token is fascinating because there has to be something there that you can use to break that. I'm thinking, what's the enchantment that you can pay a single colorless into, sacrifice an artifact or a creature, and deal a damage? Makeshift munitions?
Yeah,
that sounds right to me.
I think I bought myself enough. I bought myself enough time to think of it. Podcasting like a pro. So I think there's got to be something that you can use with the artifact synergies. In particular, if you think Reckless Fireweaver, artifact ETB deal a damage. So you start looping spells, and Reckless Fireweaver starts dealing a bunch of damage. Treasures probably go super hard in this deck, just because if you're leaning into the soldier artifact-ness, treasures are going to be super dope to have. Same goes kind of with clues, because you got a little bit of blue but not as hard. Blood tokens because you have red, stuff like that. But yeah, I think this is of these effects of cast a non-creature spell, make a token, this one fascinates me the most at uncommon out of any of the ones I've seen, because they have that artifact text on them.
I would agree. I think,
and there just has to be something there.
Yes. The adding a super type of artifact as opposed to tokens with flying for something like Murmuring Mystic, and it's in 2-color, really opens it up for all of the pingers in red. You can hit them in the way in with Impact Tremors, hit them on the way out with Makeshift Munitions, but then you're adding all of those artifact synergies as well. There's a very good chance you could be dealing 3 or 4 damage per creature that enters the battlefield. Yes.
And if you're just loaded with cantrips, it's lights out.
Right, if you're playing Curate, then you can really get up to something. So this has got to be probably, of our picks, one of the strongest off the bat, or the most clearly strong.
I might consider building this commander.
Ooh, okay.
I would say this is definitely going to see a home in the database. It has all the markings of just a super powerful commander.
Yeah, and it's
2 mana. Actually, if Liam, you came through and just provided us that list, so we'll be in touch.
Oh goodness. Okay. If I've got that time.
No pressure. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, blue red. This you can play. Basically a Crackling Drake deck, or even like a Malcolm and Darter deck. But now all of a sudden you're just generating a massive board. I think really the only saving grace for me here, and I'm not trying to be a doomsday sayer or anything, but the only saving grace for me here is that things like Fiery Cannonade, Breath Weapon, Blazing Volley are super prevalent in our format, so that will keep this in check.
So something I like about Third Path Iconoclast a little bit over something like Crackling Drake is Crackling Drake might be immune to. Is Crackling Drake immune to the board wipes, to Breath Weapon? And
it's got 4 toughness.
For the most part, yeah.
Yep.
Does it? Its toughness grows? I feel like it does, right?
Just the power, actually.
Just the power.
Okay. So, while Crackling Drake might be semi-immune to that board wipes, and Iconoclast really isn't, I like Iconoclast a little bit more, because the thing with Drake is it relies on Drake, right? You need Drake out to deal that combat damage, and that just folds to removal. Yes, Iconoclast folds to more removal more easily, but the thing I like about it is if you're leaning into the artifactness of the soldiers, the deck is going to play a lot more like a Canlander deck, where the commander provides a very valuable piece of synergy and a very valuable engine to get running, but the deck might just be tight enough that it might be able to pull some wins out, even if the commander's been removed a few times. It might even with the right hand be able to pull a win without the commander. It would take a very tight knit deck, but with that artifact synergy and Izzet being so specific on those tokens, I think this specific commander and Izzet might be able to pull it off.
I really like that take. I think, Liam, you're actually picking up on something that we've been starting to see. There's been a lot of large sweeping shifts in the meta since we've kind of started following this. But one of the things now is that in PDH, and I'm sure you guys have experienced this over as just playing general PDH with the pod, but the commanders in general, I would say, are just so much more powerful than any spell in your deck and usually so integral to your strategy. But we are starting to see decks that can function without their commander, because a lot of times something like an oubliette is so crippling because you cannot do what you need to do if you do not have that uncommon on the battlefield, right? But yeah, like you said, Third Path Iconoclast, obviously this card is bonkers. But I definitely think we're moving towards a place where it doesn't necessarily need to resolve and be on the battlefield for a few turns for you to actually enable your game plan.
And that's a topic that I personally wrestle with, like, myself, just in my head, because I'm like, on the one hand, I want my deck to be able to function without my commander. I want my commander to be a synergy piece, to be a huge value engine that if I get it out, boosts the deck. I want that to happen. But I also want the deck to be able to function without the commander in case of something like an oubliette that I can't deal with. But the other part that really gets me is, what's the difference between PDH and EDH, or EDH and Canlander, if my deck can function without the commander? I just have a special card that's guaranteed to always be in my opening hand. Like, that's cool, but what's the real difference there? I mean, the difference between PDH and the other two is that, I'm using all commons with a single uncommon, but big whoop, right? Like, what makes the format special is you have that card. So is it really a bad thing if you if you can't make your deck function without your commander? Is it really a bad thing? What if you need your commander? That's great. So it's like, the one hand is the spirit of the format, the other hand is play functionality. And even when I, get in the competitive mindset, I'm still like, in my head, yeah, this is competitive. Yeah, I should make the deck be able to function without the commander, but what's the point then? I might as well just play Pop or Canlander.
Fair enough. I definitely think that...
I can see both sides of the argument, and I can't put myself on either side of it. It's infuriating.
Yeah, for sure. I think that for a majority of the people who enjoy cPDH, that is the thing, right? The play functionality is the spirit of the format. So
yeah.
But yeah, no, 100%. But I definitely think that, like you said, Third Path is definitely something that we could see moving towards that sort of new evolution in the meta. Going from potentially top tier meta to Chev, what the hell are you thinking of Junkyard Genius? What's going on?
All right. So this is put together with spit and a dream.
I'm seeing a lot of duct tape on this one.
there's quite a bit. So we've got some competitive ones here. This is my dream competitive, and I think it's just because I've been doing a lot of Rakdos recently. But Junkyard Genius is a red and a black for a 2/2. That when it ETBs, create a Power Stone, and then for 3 mana, sacrifice another creature or artifact. Until end of turn, other creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain Menace and Haste. And what really has me interested about this card is obviously that second ability. So coming in and creating a Power Stone is great because it helps enable your activated ability. But Anthem effects are still relatively uncommon. Three for 3. And in red and black, where you can make a ton of really small tokens that can flood a board with goblins or skeletons or whatever. For 3 mana, they all have Menace, and they're now 2/1s. And you can do that multiple activations, right? You can tap your Power Stone in 2 mana and sacrifice the Power Stone, and then all of your guys are a little bit stronger. And you can just keep doing that several activations in the same turn. Or it can be another way to get haste, right? Because it can give everything haste. And while we haven't seen a Rakdos combo list yet, I think something like this is great in comparison to a Mayhem Devil, which of course is whenever a permanent sacrifice deal damage. This can head probably a very similar deck deal with all the same synergies in that, but also be able to swing in with creatures. So it's kind of a combination of, you've got sacrificing colors that care about sacrifice, you have an anthem effect in colors that can benefit from it, and it's really just a all-around powerful commander that I think could be, with the right shell, competitive.
You know what, I'm willing to buy into this dream. You know, if I was in the Shark Tank, I might invest a little bit into this. I definitely think that it's gonna be more mid-rangey sort of thing, and a little clunky, but I think we can definitely get there. I agree with you. If we're able to generate a good amount of tokens, I'm thinking there's a lot of instants and sorceries that give you 2, 3, even 4, like something like a goblin token. That +1/+0, generally that's doubling the amount of damage you're putting on the board, and the haste and the menace. The menace is the hugest thing for me. So I definitely think that we could get there. Especially, I mean, most of that will be off the fact that just there's plenty of good black and red spells that we can play to supplement our bad spells.
Correct.
But you know. I'm interested to see how this one might go.
I don't know about this one. I definitely like the utility of using your Power Stone, your singular Power Stone from when the Genius enters, by the way, to both pay for the generic cost and the artifact cost of that ability. I think it is very wishful thinking, because the setup required would be immense and probably requires killing your Genius a couple times and reanimating it to get more Power Stones. I don't know. There's a lot of duct tape holding this together.
There is definitely, and Chev, maybe it's a sign that the PDH Pod resident decided that maybe this wasn't competitive enough.
Yeah, that one hurts.
I think this definitely has a home at the casual table, which you're always welcome to join.
We'll send it over to the pals.
Yes, but I am unconvinced of its utility in a competitive environment.
Last time this happened, I had to build a deck about it out of spite, so you might be seeing a Junkyard Genius deck coming to a Monday night stream near you. But let's move on to less wishful thinking. Things like Falagi Vanguard, Julian.
Falagi Vanguard is just once again another one of these cards that we've been seeing a lot of red-based decks, and even some Boros decks. This is going to be a red and a white for a 2/3 human soldier. There's already some soldier synergies there. It's got first strike, but whenever it or another creature, notably this is triggers on tokens as well, enters the battlefield under your control, target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Similar to what we want to be doing in something like a Junkyard Genius, making a bunch of tokens allows us to buff up a bunch of creatures that we have. Our creatures are already going to be aggressive and aggressively statted in Boros. I definitely think that this could just be something where we see just a very straightforward but potent aggro deck. Back in, I want to say it was, I forget if it was Dominaria United or if it was Baldur's Gate, we got Tori D'Avenant. Which we both commented on as being a potentially very potent Boros aggro commander. Currently, we have Commander Liara Portier in the list, as well as something like a Zada kind of functions similar to this. It's just another potential, and even though the overall strategy is going to be similar, having a bunch of different options for kind of who's going to head your deck is always something that we're hoping to achieve over with the format.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm more excited about Hero of the Dunes, aka Paul Atreides. 3, a white and a black for a human soldier, 3/2. When Hero of the Dunes enters the battlefield, return target artifact or creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Drops mic. Creatures you control with mana value 3 or less gets +1/+0 as a static effect. Now, 5 mana for a creature is a hefty cost, but we are in white-black, and I'm gonna be shout out to PDH Pod. I'm gonna be Brad for a second. I'm gonna be the Orzhov stan. We have as we already said, we have all sorts of ways to flicker. This is an ETB, not a cast. We have all sorts of ways to flicker in white. We have all sorts of ways to sacrifice and return with things such as Ashnod's Intervention, Feign Death, etc. in black. We are also... there's definitely a bunch of tools for us to play a powerful mid-rangey aristocrat-style deck with things like Burglar Rats, things like Fleshbag Marauder and all its friends, even all the white creatures that we get that now draw cards, Spirited Companion, Priest of Ancient Lore, and then all of these are 3 or less, so now they're getting +1/+0, and we're doubling up on triggers with them by reanimating them, but also, since we're playing in a format where the general stat pool is so condensed, you don't often see things that are bigger than 4/4s generally, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That +1/+0 now all of a sudden turns a majority of our creatures, I would say, into not just chump blockers, but things that we can just attack with, because once again, we're going to bring them back with hero or other cards. And these are things that now all of a sudden, instead of our opponent chumping or just blocking them or us chumping with them, these are now things that we can attack with impunity, and they could potentially trade for a majority of the format just with that singular buff. So now all of a sudden we're dealing either real damage or we're taking out permanents on the board while furthering our game plan, and we can just recoup all these things and continue to get the incremental ETB value that has become so synonymous with the format. So I'm huge on Hero of the Dunes.
I think what really draws me to Hero is almost the modality, right? Because you can play Hero of the Dunes to get those cards back, but like Julian said, you have so many other ways to do that already. This is an additional effect you have in the command zone. I like this kind of as an equivalent to the Naya boss from New Capenna. Jetmir, where it sits in the command zone, and you think of Hero of the Dunes as a spell more than anything else. Yes, it's a great creature, but once you've amassed your board with a bunch of 2/1s that draw you cards that you might just be playing over the course of the game, those are never going to be targets for your opponent's removal. You fill your board, then you can drop Hero of the Dunes, giving them all +1/+0 and sweep for victory, or when you need it to recur a key combo piece or a fleshbag or something like that, you can cast it from the command zone as well and flicker for however many times you need. So it's really a versatile piece that lets you do so many different things that you want while not needing to be on the battlefield for 90% of the game. So it doesn't draw the hate of your opponents, and you don't need to play it early to get removed and then be paying 7 mana for it the second time. Hero of the Dunes really has I'm going to cast this once energy going on.
So with the Hero of the Dunes, I definitely agree. It has that cast me once energy and win the game. It definitely it feels a lot. I draw a lot of parallels in my head to my Ruxa EDH deck, where Ruxa more than anything, because I leaned heavy into vanilla tokens rather than vanilla creatures with that deck. Ruxa more than anything is an overrun effect. And my friend group knows it. If I am casting Ruxa, I intend to either win the game or knock someone out. And so, I don't run a lot of overrun effects in that deck. I think I run one other effect in that deck besides Ruxa. Hero of the Dunes kind of gives that energy off where it's like, I'm going to cast this. I may not win immediately, but I'm going to either knock someone out or get a lot of value off of it.
Yes.
And I think that's the play style you need to play with this commander. You need to be playing it with that mindset that you are going to cast this to get a ton of value and or knock 1 or 2 players out. I'm unsure if you could really build up an unchecked board state to the point where you could knock out all 3 opponents. Oh, this is PDC, where you can knock... Yeah, okay, you can definitely knock out 1 opponent. Sorry, I mix up formats all the time. So, yeah, in PDC, definitely you can play this, knock out your 1 opponent, call it a day. If you are playing Hero of the Dunes for that Anthem effect and not the first ability, I'm going to point you to Minthara Merciless Soul instead. Because it does a lot of the same things. You're flickering Minthara or another permanent for ETB value, but the Anthem effect is much more substantial over the game. And Minthara has built-in protection with uninteractable player counters, which is really nice.
So we love experience counters.
If you are playing Hero of the Dunes for the Anthem, don't play Minthara. Because it's a lot of the same lines. But rather than instead of running 20 flicker effects, you're running 20 reanimation effects. That's it. You just swap the flicker and reanimation numbers. Obviously in Mythara decks you're still going to be running some flicker effects, and in Hero of the Dunes you're going to be running some reanimation effects, but just swap the number you're running. If you're running Hero of the Dunes for that first ability to gain some value, and the Anthem is more secondary to just do a bunch of damage, I think you need to play it with that mindset that it's only there to be cast once you're winning the game, and I'm here for that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's fair enough for sure. I definitely think that I would not say that Hero of the Dunes is strong enough to stand on its own just with one effect or the other. I definitely think you need to utilize both of them to achieve the power level necessary to compete in this format.
For sure.
But I definitely think that the versatility of that, along with the fact that just white and black together can form a very powerful mid-range to control core, this is definitely something that I'm interested in brewing with.
Yeah.
You'll have to beat Brad to it.
I'd be shocked if Brad didn't have a
he's got one waiting in the wings.
Oh yeah, no,
let me check Moxfield. Sure
well, while Liam checks Moxfield, that is the last card that I would like to discuss. Is there any other quick hits that you guys want to do before we tie a bow on this thing and say that these are the definitive picks, at least until people listen to the PDH pod?
I think personally, yeah, this is it. Bro has been a set of adding pieces to existing strategies for the most part, which I think is great because we don't get that too frequently. And I think it's cool to spend almost a season, as it were, at least until Jumpstart 2022, thinking about how we can upgrade existing decks as opposed to building new ones. And so I think this is a cool opportunity to take this group of cards and apply them to the most competitive decks you have and see where do they fit in, are these helpful, and take that time to kind of curate and move forward as opposed to needing to kind of test out new ground, which is a great experience to have, but at least for me, the deck building is the combination between trying new things and being able to build upon what already exists. And I think this is very much the latter as opposed to the former.
Yeah, I think I can agree to that.
Perfect. Well, this has been the Hexdrinker's House of Commons. Liam, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure to have you.
Absolutely. It was great.
We appreciate your we appreciate your insight. And if I believe the PDH pod will actually come out before this one. Mm-hmm. So if you have not listened to that, go on there. There might be some special surprises in store for you. And we're going to be talking about a bunch of other excellent cards to play at the common rarity. But if not, this is the end. I don't know what else to tell you.
This is when we stick out from behind the doorframe in a bathrobe and tell you to go home. At least until next week. This is the PDH pod. We're not the PDH pod. You said the word PDH pod too frequently and it threw me off. We're the Hexdrinker's House of Commons. I don't know. Liam is wearing off on us. Thanks so much for joining us. Good night.
Good night.